Napoleon Bonaparte was a French statesman and military leader who rose to prominence during the French Revolution and its associated wars. Some historians argue that he was one of, if not the most effective military leader in history. He was Emperor of France from 1804 until 1814 and again briefly in 1815. Napoleon dominated European and global affairs for more than a decade while leading France against a series of coalition in the Napoleonic Wars. He won most every war and battle that he was engaged in and would often win against extremely unlikely odds. His campaigns are still studied in military academy schools worldwide. He built a large empire that ruled over much of continental Europe. He remains one of the most celebrated political figures in human history, and his legacy affects the world directly until today.
It's time for minute distinctions.
But how did Napoleon rise to power? Following the French Revolution, Napoleon initially rose to prominence as a general in the French army, and his military successes against various European powers helped to establish him as a national hero in France. He seized control of the government in a coup d'etat in 1799 and eventually declared himself Emperor of the French in 1804. He consolidated his power by carrying out a series of reforms, including the Napoleonic Code, which established a uniform system of laws across France and served as a model for legal systems throughout much of Europe. He also pursued a series of ambitious military campaigns across Europe, which helped to spread his influence and solidify his control over much of Europe. His soldiers loved him and were very loyal for many reasons, not least amongst them that he would get in the dirt and fight alongside them. This rapid growth caused a backlash as Austria, Prussia, Russia, Sweden, and a number of smaller European powers formed an alliance called the Sixth Coalition in 1813. The alliance defeated Napoleon and his forces at the Battle of Leipzig, and Napoleon was forced to abdicate his role as ruler. The coalition installed Louis VIII, and Napoleon was exiled to the island of Elba. Less than a year later, he disguised himself and got aboard a British ship that was heading to France. He was accompanied by only a handful of his most trusted advisors and a few hundred soldiers who had remained loyal to him. Back in France, the people were initially welcoming the return of the monarchy as years of war had exhausted them. However, in the year Napoleon was gone, they realized it was back to business as usual, with the king reminding them why there was a revolution in the first place. Therefore, it's understandable that Napoleon was welcomed back by the people. One of the coolest showdowns in history followed. Anywhere from 600 to several thousand of the king's soldiers were sent to arrest Napoleon as he made his way to Paris. Many of them had previously fought by Napoleon's side. With their guns raised, Napoleon walked ahead of his loyal soldiers, opened his coat, and addressed his former compatriots. He said, "If any of you will shoot his emperor, here I am." There was a tense silence. No one fired. Instead, they joined Napoleon and marched to Paris. The monarchs from the surrounding nations were predictably upset by Napoleon undoing their monarchical reset. Thus began the 100 Days' War, which was basically a seventh and last coalition assembled against Napoleon. The fighting culminated with the famous Battle of Waterloo. Napoleon was finally defeated at this battle in June of 1815. The Allied powers decided to exile Napoleon for real this time and sent him to a tiny island over 4,500 miles south of Paris in the middle of the Atlantic. Napoleon's wars fundamentally reshaped the political and military landscape of Europe, culminating in the Congress of Vienna, which reshaped Europe after a quarter-century of conflict. The wars led to the spread of nationalism and liberalism, as well as the rise of the British Empire as the world's foremost power. Napoleon's legacy is complex and controversial. At the height of his power, he controlled a large portion of Europe, including France, Italy, and parts of Germany, Austria, and Spain. He was a symbol of national unity and modernity, and remains one of the most celebrated and controversial figures in human history. He is seen by some as a hero who fought to spread the ideals of the French Revolution, while others view him as a tyrant who imposed his will on Europe through military force. What do you think about Napoleon and his time as Emperor of France? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below, and be sure to like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video. And if you didn't like the video, like and subscribe anyway. Do it for the revolution. Till next time.